In a world... In a world full of devils, how much of your humanity can you keep? Or is there no other way than to become a devil yourself? I know, I wanted to talk about lesser known series on this channel, but as I said before, I love this series so much I just had to. I'm sure this one needs no introduction. If you clicked on this video, you probably already know what I'm talking about here. This manga has been getting a lot of attention in the past year. I don't even remember how or why I discovered it, but it doesn't matter. Anyways, let's get to the plot first, and then let's talk about why it's so great, or at least in my opinion. Chainsaw Man is a manga by Fujimoto Tatsuki, and it started serializing in 2018. It is still ongoing at the time of recording this video. Fujimoto is already a known author, first and foremost for his work Fire Punch. Chainsaw Man is set in the 90s in Japan, if I remember correctly, in the 90s, and devils are roaming the streets. Our protagonist Denji is a teenage boy, and he's burdened by a heavy debt that his father left him. To pay it off, he kills devils for the Yakuza. He basically lives the life of a drifter, and his only companion or friend is a dog-like devil called Pochita, who is also a chainsaw. Denji takes on any job he can get, and Pochita is always ready to assist him. People are more than willing to rip him off though, and he even does degrading things like eat cigarette buds for little to no money. Denji daydreams about eating regular food and women, things that have nothing to do with his harsh reality. One day, the Yakuza decided to make a contract with the devil themselves and kill off Denji because they simply didn't need him anymore. They chop Denji and Pochita to pieces and leave them to rot. But then Pochita offers Denji a deal. Denji can have Pochita's heart, but in return, Pochita gets to see Denji's dreams. Meaning he wants to see Denji live a good life. Pochita then merges with Denji, allowing him to turn into a chainsaw. Hence the title Chainsaw Man. Denji immediately takes revenge on the fuckers from before, immediately cleaning his debt. And once he's done with the massacre, he notices a witness. A woman called Makima, accompanied by two men, introduces herself as a devil hunter for public safety. Kann ich einmal normale Haare haben, bitte? She asks if she could hire the devil side of Denji and keep the human side in him as a pet. She offers to feed him if he agrees, and he's like, yeah, cool. From then on, Denji is part of the Devil Hunters, and this is where the story really begins, so I won't spoil anything more. Denji is a fun character. Despite all the hardships he's been through, he's still a teenager at heart, with average teenage dreams. We can see this especially when it comes to women. He has a crush on the beautiful and powerful Makima, a woman whose motivations and goals are ambiguous to say the least. He fantasizes about her, but his real life experiences end up being with completely different women he doesn't even look at. These experiences also end up being very different from how he wanted them to be. Another character I love and is easily one of my favorite female characters is Pawa. She's also a devil hunter and one of the funniest characters I've seen in a while. She talks like an old man, cares only about her cat and acts superior to everyone, but she's very strong. Her interactions with the other characters are really fun to read. Aki is another one of the main characters that I really like. First, he seemed kind of like a Sasuke kind of guy, you know, the strong, silent type who's too cool for everything. But we soon learn that he doesn't act like this on purpose. More or less, everyone acts cold to a certain degree, but we'll get into this in a bit. His relationship with this angel boy is also very interesting, and I really like their dynamic. Generally, each character is entertaining, brings something new to the table, and has a distinctive personality. They all have their own motives and intentions, but what unites them all is the fact that they tend to keep things private. Nobody really opens up or shows room for any emotions, which just shows how destructive the world they live in actually is. You don't get to think about your inner life all that much when you're constantly busy surviving your job or life in general. Denji is no exception to this, of course. He's used to having a shitty life, and things like emotional attachments are not really a thing for him. He takes pleasure in very basic needs, such as food and women. Sometimes he realizes how cold he has become, especially since becoming a chainsaw. That sounds weird. He first realized this when a coworker of his dies, and he didn't have any particular reaction to it. Even when he tried imagining somebody he actually cared about dying, it didn't do anything for him. The image just left him more or less empty. Since everyone always has existential needs on their minds, there isn't really time to get close to somebody or form a bond. Another character who makes this abundantly clear is the angel, who will shorten your lifespan if you touch him. I'm not sure if this is intentionally metaphoric or not, but this is basically how all the characters in Chainsaw Man feel. If you care too much about others or get too close to them, you might risk shortening your own lifespan. The devil hunters are used to going to their coworker's funeral. They know better than to form close bonds with anyone. Which doesn't mean that they don't want to. And now I briefly need to talk about, I guess, romance. Surprisingly, there's even a ship, I guess you could call it, that I like, and it's a straight one at that. And it's between Denji and Pawa. What usually puts me off with romance is that I have trouble feeling or understanding the chemistry between two characters. But here there's no trouble at all. The two of them are similar in many ways, but maybe the fact that they're not portrayed as a romantic relationship is what I like. For example, there are chapters where the two of them are trying to get out of training lessons, and they're trying to hatch a plan to trap their teacher, and it was just one of the funniest things I've read. And so the fact that their relationship is not portrayed as romantic is probably why it works for me and why it feels so natural. It does not seem forced. You know, just because they're a man and a woman, they have to get together somehow. But here it doesn't happen. In my last video, I mentioned that I liked special types of relationships between men and women, and this one is exactly like that. So maybe that's why I liked them. I don't think shipping is the right word, but even if it gets romantic, I wouldn't have a problem with that here. They just behave so like themselves around each other that it makes their whole relationship seem so natural. And we see Denji's attempts to get close to Makima fail anyways. I mean, I like unlikely pairings, but it has to work. She does not seem interested in personal relationships like that anyways, so if something happened between them, it would feel highly unnatural. The manga is equally funny as it is dark. You have a bunch of people who know how dangerous their job is. We have yet to uncover everyone's intentions and goals, but for now, they're all in the same boat, trying to survive. I like the theme of humanity, or to be more exact, what it means to be human. Especially in a world that treats you like garbage. You have to decide how you want to face the world. Will you turn into a hollow shell, cold, a ruthless killer? Would you dare open your heart to it? Are these things even your own choice to make, or are you forced to adapt to the cruel reality of things? It's interesting to see how the manga tackles all these questions while being extremely entertaining. The art is also pretty unique in my opinion. I don't think I've seen anything like it. It is not the cleanest or finest, I should say. The characters are almost drawn like a sketch, and they're contrasted by more detailed backgrounds, if there are any. A lot of the time the background is just white or black, especially when there's a ton of dialogue. I personally like the style very much. There are many gruesome scenes and tons of brutality, and some scenes are actually quite beautiful. I'm really wondering at this point if this is going to get an anime adaptation and what that would look like. The English version isn't officially translated yet, I think, but once it gets out, please try and buy it to support the author. And also please share your thoughts about it if you want. And as for next time, I'm going to be discussing a manga I recently read and found pretty good. It's a finished series for once. But I think there are only a few chapters available in English, so I guess a lot of people ignored this one, or I don't know if they didn't like it. But I don't care, I'm gonna do this anyway, since I promised I'm gonna introduce a more niche manga next time. And yeah, that's it for now. If you've made it until the end, thank you very much for your time.